Dashboards allow you to pull data together and display them in different ways. There's a variety of different widgets that you can use on your dashboards. We're going to see several different examples of those. There are dashboards in a couple of different places in BPM Online. So the first place you've probably noticed them is that there is a dashboards section that you'll see in your navigation bar. The dashboard section allows you to create just general global overall dashboards. And the nice thing about that is you can easily pull together data from multiple sections. So you can have, leads and contacts and opportunities all displayed on a single dashboard. The dashboard section is also accessible on mobile. So any dashboards that you create in the dashboard section, if you have the dashboard section set up for mobile, then you'll see them on your mobile app, on your phone or your tablet. The other place you can set up dashboards is within any section. So within any section, when you're on the list view, there's an option to switch to a dashboard view, and I'll show you what that looks like. The dashboards within another section are not accessible on mobile, but they do allow you to use the folders and filters function that's available in that section to change the set of data that you're looking at, and the charts and things on your dashboard will update as you apply those folders or filters. So that's pretty nice too. The dashboards within a section generally are all data that's in some way connected to that section, because otherwise, obviously, that filtering wouldn't work. So typically, if you're, say in the account section, your filters are things that are either about the accounts themselves or connected data like opportunities for those accounts or things like that. Common widgets that you'll see on dashboards include charts of various styles, metrics, which are single number calculations, like the number of open opportunities or the number of leads created this week or something like that. Gauges allow you to track progress towards a goal, and then lists of data. So we're going to set up examples of each of these here when we get into BPM Online in a minute. And when we do that, you're going to see that in a lot of ways, setting up dashboard widgets is pretty similar to setting up filters. A lot of the setup is actually around creating a filter for that widget, and the filtering function is exactly the same. So you build the filters the exact same way, which is really nice because once you are comfortable with the idea of building filters, building dashboards is very easy to learn at that point because it's very similar. And dashboards have pretty similar sharing setup. In terms of how you share them. It's the same way you go to the access rights, and the same thing is going to be true here, whereas if you just want someone to be able to use the dashboard, you want to give them read access. If you give someone edit dashboard and they change the dashboard, give someone edit access and they change the dashboard, it would change it for everyone it's shared with, including you. If you give someone delete access and they delete the dashboard, it would delete it for everyone, including you. So again, you want to be pretty careful about who you allow to edit or delete your dashboard. All right, so I'm going to start with the section level dashboards, and then we'll go to the dashboard section after this. Then I'm going to go into the accounts section. I'm going to clear off my filter here so I've got the full list, and I'm going to go into the dashboards by clicking this icon here at the top of the screen. So this is a switch back and forth button here, the list view versus the dashboard view. And within the dashboard section, you're going to see there are a few different dashboard tabs set up here. These are all standard dashboards that may or may not exist in your system. They may have been removed if they were deemed irrelevant. You may have other dashboards that someone has set up already in your system. And so you can click on any of the tabs to see the data that's there. Here again, you can see those different widget types. We've got a chart, we've got a list, we've got a metric. I think this one had some, same thing, metrics and charts on it. And again, the nice thing about the section level dashboards is that they work with the folders. So if I take this, whatever the sample records favorite folder is here, and I apply that, you can see that the numbers and charts on my dashboard all instantly updated because now we are only talking about the data in this folder, in this filter. So I can do that with any filter or folder. I can even, create a filter from here on the fly and see those metrics update. And so that can be really handy when you're trying to look at, comparing one group to another, for example. You can do that really easily. The dashboard section, again, is accessible on mobile, whereas the section level dashboards are not. The other main difference, I think, with the dashboard section is you often see data from more sections pulled together that may not have a direct link between them, but they're things that, all influence each other. For example, for sales, the number of leads is important, the number of opportunities is important, the size of the pipeline is important, but there's not necessarily that direct data linkage between how many leads you've got that are currently leads versus how many opportunities you've got. They obviously went through the lead stage, but they're not directly linked. And so it's not going to require any sort of linkage here. You can pull together any information that you want on these different dashboard pages. And here again, you can see a variety of different dashlet types are here. Let's just go ahead and create a new dashboard. So I'm going to go to the gear button there on the upper right, give my dashboard a name. And right now, this is just an empty starting point. So I need to build out my dashboard. And so I'm going to click the plus button here to do that. It's going to give me a list of all of the different things that we can add. And I'm going to start with just adding a couple of metrics. So again, a metric is a single number calculation. It's probably the simplest one to add, which is why I'm starting there. And whenever we're working with our dashboard, it's always going to ask us to pick what object we want to pull the data from. So what section do we want to pull the data from for this particular widget? So let me give this a name. What I'm going to do is the number of open opportunities. So that's obviously going to be the opportunities object. I can scroll through that list, but I can also, of course, do a type ahead search, narrow that down a little bit, and find the opportunity section. The function is going to allow me to pick how it's calculating the number off of that data. So I'm going to use a count for this one, but we'll do another example where we pick one of those other options. We're going to set up our filter. So if I want the number of open opportunities, I need to filter to only the open opportunities. And again, this is going to work exactly the same as the advanced filter section or function. So we can just click add condition here. It's going to be the same window that pops up where we can get our list of fields. If we want to connect to another section, we can click the plus button. Don't need that on this particular example. So I'm going to pick the stage field, and we'll do is not, and we'll pick the closed values here. So as we're going, you might notice that on the right side of my screen, it's doing a preview of what this is going to look like. That does update as I'm building, so I can see how the changes that I'm making affect that. And one other thing I might want to update here is the default formatting on these is 2 digits after the decimal point. I obviously can't have a partially open opportunity, so we'll go ahead and just make that 0 digits after the decimal point, make that an integer number. We'll go ahead and save that. Now, when we add that, it auto-selects how big it's going to be. For some reason, they make it nice and wide, but not very tall. So we definitely want to make this at least 1 or 2 boxes taller so that we can actually read what's there. And a metric actually probably doesn't need to be that wide, so we can shrink that down a little bit. It doesn't show you the actual widget itself here. It's just giving you the chance to resize it and decide how they're going to go next to each other. So if we want to see what that widget actually looks like, we need to actually save the dashboard to go into the standard view of it. And now we can see what my dashboard looks like. To go back into editing the dashboard, we'll go to the gear button and click the edit. And now we can click the plus button wherever we want to add another widget. So we'll go ahead and put something here. Actually, before I do that, I was going to copy this one and show you how that function works. So let's copy this metric. Once I click on it, I can then copy it. And let's also do how many dollars we have in our open opportunities. So how big is our pipeline in terms of dollars? So I'll rename this to dollars. Here we go. And the way I'm going to change this to get the dollars is by changing the function that I'm using. So instead of doing the count function, I'm going to do a sum of all of my open opportunities. And then I'll have to pick which field to look at to do that sum. So I'll need to find the opportunity amount field and use that. Again, I may want to update the format on this. I can make that have a $sign in front of it so that it displays that, and I can put those 2 decimal digits, 2 decimal points back in if I want those to display the sense of my opportunities, and then we'll save that. We can move around. It just randomly put this on here when I copied, but I can drag and drop this to where I want it to be. And again, I can resize it with the buttons here if I want to do that. Okay, so that's how metrics work. Let's next add a gauge to our dashboard. A gauge, again, is going to allow us to track progress towards a goal. And we're going to use activities for this one. We're going to do a completed meetings goal. So we're going to have the number of completed meetings. Meetings are tracked in the activities section. So my object here is going to be activity. And I will do a count since I want to do the number of completed meetings that have happened. I'm going to need some filters on here because I want meetings that have been completed. So I'm going to need to use the category to make sure that it's a meeting, and the status to make sure that it's been completed. And I probably also want some sort of time frame on this. I probably just don't want a number of meetings forever. So let's use the due date for a condition. And this could be whatever time frame you want. Take a quick second to talk about the previous number of days versus the current month or the current quarter. So if I did something like the previous number of days, and let's say I did the previous 30 days. The previous 30 days would always be a rolling 30-day period. So right now it's July 12th. So the previous 30 days would be, June 12th to July 12th. If instead I did current month, that would always start over on the first of the month. So current month would be July 1st to July 12th. And so it would start over each month from scratch. I'm going to go ahead and use that one for this one. And let's say I have a goal of how many meetings I need to have every month that I'm working towards. The last thing that I need to do to set up my gauge dashlet is to set up the goal itself. So first of all, I need to classify as, is this a goal that I want more of or less of? I want more meetings, so this will be the more the better. And then I need to enter a scale for how to size the widget. So I'll just do 0, 5, 10, 15 for now. And now we can see a preview of what this looks like. So you can see that right now I've got one completed meeting this month. And the goals, the numbers that I entered in there become where the dividing sections are in my dashlet, in my widget, to define how good or bad I'm doing right now. Those don't have to be evenly spaced out. So I could have something like 0, 5, 15, 20, let's just say. And it will automatically adjust the sizing to scale according to the numbers that you've put in. All right, let's save that and make that a little bigger. And let's save our dashboard and see how this looks. All right, so far so good, I think. We'll go back in and edit. What I want to do next is do a couple of chart examples. So the first chart example that I'm going to do is going to be a pie chart showing me my leads broken down by what their need is. So we'll call this leads by needs. And to build out the chart, again, I'm going to start by picking what object I want to pull the data from, in this case, the lead object. My function here, again, how do I want to turn this into a number? I'm going to count my leads, but I could also do sums and averages. And then what type of chart I want, I'm going to do a pie chart for this one. Then I need to define how to group my data. So how am I going to take all of my leads and divide them into sections on my pie chart? Well, I'm going to use the customer need column for that. And so now I can see how many leads I have with each of the different needs that I've defined. I can add a filter to this if I want to do just leads in a specific time period, or leads that are still open, or leads that have been converted. However I want to define that. I don't need to add a filter, so I can save this right now and just have it be all leads for all time period. So let's go ahead and do that. Make that a little bigger again. And then I'm going to do a second chart example. I want to do one that's a little bit more complex. One of the neat things that you can do with chart widgets is you can have multiple data series on them. So that's really useful for things like comparing year over year, for example. So let's do an orders by month chart, and we're going to do the current year and the previous year so we can see them both and compare them. So we're going to do months here and dollars there. So I'm going to use the orders object for this. You can also use the opportunities, obviously, depending on how you're tracking that within your BPM instance. And I'm going to do the dollars here. So we'll do the total order amount. Let's go ahead and keep a line chart for this, and we're going to group it by the order date. When I pick a date field for my grouping, a second field is going to pop up asking me what time period of dates I want to group by. So I probably don't want to, in this case, do every hour or every day. What I want to do is every month. And so you're going to get a variety of different time periods that you can group by. Should be enough. There we go, to start to see what this is going to look like. So I have my different months down here. I've got the order dollars on the y-axis, and you can see it skipped some months here because there were no orders those months. If I want to show those on my chart, I can go ahead and say use empty value, and now we'll see the 0 months on here as well. And now this is still all of my orders ever. I want to filter this. So what we're going to do is we're going to have 2 different data series, one for the current year and one for the previous year. So let's go ahead and do the current year first. We'll do the order date, and we'll do current year. And let's label this current year. That'll show up when I'm hovering over it now. And then we're going to add a second series with this gear button here. And we're just going to repeat pretty much the same thing, except for the filter is going to be different. So this will be the order object. We'll do the sum of the totals. We'll group it by the date, the months, and we'll filter it to the previous year. So now we've got 2 different lines on here. Let's make them different colors so that we can easily see the difference. And let's label the previous year. So now we can see this year versus last year right here on a chart. Let's go ahead and save that. You're not limited to 2 series, by the way. You could have more than 2 series. If you had, other things you wanted to group by instead of years, for example, this year versus last year, you could do that as well. All right, there's one more widget that I want to show you, and that is the list widget. So this is what you would use to add a list of data to your dashboard. I'm going to put a list of my activities for the day. And I want to show a list of my activities that are due today or that are past due. So once again, I need to pick the object that I'm going to pull the data from. We'll pick the activity object. And then I'm going to need to set up a few things here. The first one is the columns that I want on this list. So this is very similar if you've ever done the column setup on your list in any section where you change what columns are displayed. You can just add any fields that you want to this list here with that plus button. So let's add the category. Let's add the due date. Let's add the contact. And then you can connect to related sections here. So I could, for example, pull in the contact phone number by clicking the plus button here, going to the contact object, and then picking the phone number. When I do that, it's going to ask me how I want to label that. So I'll just call that phone. I can also go in and change the label of anything if I wanted to by clicking the edit button there, the pencil button. And it does show you a preview of what that looks like as you're building out the list, so that you can get a feel for how wide you want different things to be, what order you want them in, whether or not you've pulled in the column that you thought you were pulling in. Once you're happy with that, we're going to click over to the display options, and there's a few things we have to set here. First, the sorting and number of records. So how many records do we want to show on this list before we have to click something to show more? What column do we want to sort by, and what order do we want to sort them in? Let's put the oldest at the top here. And then how we want to filter these. So again, this is the same filter builder function. Let's do activities that have not been completed yet. So something with the status is not completed or canceled. And I want to do something based on the due date because I want things that are just due today or past due. The easiest way to do that is change this equal sign to a less than or equal to and say the due date is less than or equal to today. And then I only want my activities to come up on here. So if I use the current contact, again, that's going to allow me to share this dashboard and have it show each person their own activities for the day. Let's go ahead and save this and see what that looks like. I'm going to make that bigger again. And I'm also going to use this auto width button to make it the full width. So that'll automatically adjust it to take as much space as there is, depending on what it's next to. All right, let's see how we're doing here. Let's save this. And so we can see all of the different widgets that we've added here, our charts, our list, all of the information is available. One other thing that I forgot to point out before is that with your chart widgets, and this is true whether it's on your dashboard section or a section level dashboard, any chart widget does have drill down capabilities. So you can click on a section of a chart. It will ask you how you're going to want to visualize the data that you're drilling down to. So let's say I wanted a bar chart when I drill down, and then what column I want to drill down on. Say I want to drill down on owner, who owns these leads from that particular need, and I can see the data represented in that way. So you do have the option to drill down on any chart. And then the little back arrow will take me back to the original view. And if you wanted to share this dashboard with anyone, again, that would be in the gear button here. There's also a copy option in there. Set up access rights works the same way. So I would just add a new read access right to the user or role that I wanted to share access